Well, the government must actually ensure that it runs a clean government. So this is a national government, that I'm referring to. They must end a corruption, which I doubt because the ANC has.
Should South Africa introduce a basic income grant to address the very high levels of poverty in the country? Well, economist and researcher Mlondi Mdluli doesn't think so. He's written a piece for the Business Day, which we'll link to in the description, where he outlines some of the problems with the proposed basic income grant. He joins us today. So Mlondi Mdluli, welcome to the CRA. Could you tell our viewers, what is this basic income grant and can South Africa afford it?
The main reason that I am against the basic income grants is because I believe that it is unsustainable. I believe that South Africa is not in the right fiscal position to actually implement the basic income grants. Because, say for example, if you look at the country's fiscal position, you will see that its government revenue has been decreasing, while its government's expenditures have been increasing, steadily over the years. Therefore, there's a huge government deficit. And also, if you look at the country's debt to GDP ratio, it's also been increasing highly over the years. Last year, National Treasury said that the country's debt to GDP ratio is set to increase from 80.3% in 2020-2021 to 87.3% in 2023-2024. So that's actually a 7% increase in, say, about 3 years. So it is not sustainable, and we cannot implement basic income grants.
Okay, so there are the fiscal considerations, whether South Africa can actually afford to do this. And as you've said, we're experiencing this massive fiscal deficit, growing debt profile. But then there's also the underlying problem there, which is chronic poverty and unemployment. If we're not going to implement a BIG, then what are some of the mechanisms that we can introduce that can help to alleviate some of those other socioeconomic problems?
Well, firstly, we have to improve. Well, firstly, the governments, or should I say the national governments, must aim to improve the country's education system, because at the moment the country's education system is not as strong or as efficient as it should be. The country needs young people, that have skills and actual knowledge, and people that can solve problems, and critical thinkers, so we need that kind of education system, that'll better prepare the youth for the labor market. And secondly, this country needs to invest more in entrepreneurship. We need to ensure that the country is an entrepreneur-friendly country. The national government must cut its red tape in some of the industries. And also, we should also follow the examples that have been followed by Singapore. They've implemented effective economic development policies. They've implemented effective housing sector development policies, and they've also implemented effective technology development policies. So those are the takes that we should be, taking. So yeah. Those are some examples of what can be used instead of a basic income grant.
Okay, so we obviously have a very extensive welfare system in South Africa, which provides for the most needy, the most indigent. But if you contrast the number of people who are receiving social grants with the number of people in jobs, the number of people receiving grants is far higher, which is really unsustainable. But what about the labor market itself, Mlondi? What about introducing rules that would make our labor market more flexible, more dynamic, and enable able-bodied people to become active economic agents again?
Yes, true. And one of the things that I would say is that, if you look at the minimum wage, we need to reconsider whether a minimum wage is actually needed, because I feel that those are one of the things that are also kind of imposing a barrier in the labor market. So, we should also try to see if we can maybe relook, the minimum wage, because if maybe we can try to reduce it, or maybe eventually scrap it out, then we can get more people in the labor market. So yes, we should be looking at those barriers such as the minimum wage. So yes, there.
How else can South Africa unlock growth? Because essentially what we're talking about is the symptoms, the after effects of low economic growth. That's really growth is the engine of prosperity and of improvements in human welfare. So how do we get that growth engine moving again?
Well, the governments must actually ensure that it runs a clean government. So this is a national government, that I'm referring to. They must end corruption, which I doubt, because the ANC has a history of corruption which is still taking place. So yeah, so we need a country that is corruption free, and also we need a country that will ensure that it actually implements policies that are conducive for both foreign and domestic investments. So yes, that's what we need.
Okay, and you mentioned the example of Singapore, and you featured that in your article. What about the Singaporean model do you think is attractive there? Because, I mean, in many ways, they had this very clean model of governance, but also prioritize investment and also openness to foreign capital, foreign trade, etc. What were the features of the Singaporean model that appealed to you?
As you mentioned, it's basically a clean government, and as well as the policies that they implemented, such as economic development policies that are effective. Secondly, it's the housing sector development policies that were effective, and thirdly, it's the effective technology development policies that were effective. Yeah.
Mlondi Mdluli, thank you very much for joining us on the CRA. Let's hand over to you, our audience. Do you think that a basic income grant will be fiscally sustainable? Can South Africa afford it? Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Also, a quick reminder that the CRA is a think tank focusing on political and economic risk in South Africa. If you enjoy the insights that you watch on our YouTube channel, you might want to become a subscriber of the CRA. There's a link in the description below where you can find out more information. My name is David Ansara. This is the CRA. Until next time, take care.